Welcome everyone today to the Insight webinar. My name is Adam Kurtz, and I will be delivering the Insight webinar today. We will be talking about creating sales plans and budgets in Stratum, and we'll go through the steps of that in a live demo as well. So we'll be talking about what is data import, how do we import a sales plan or a budget using the Stratum interface, some of the setup criteria that you would need to go through to set that up and make it possible, and some of the different Excel formats that are available for data import. And we'll go through the process and the different steps that are involved in the process, and then we'll do a demo, take any questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So that's the plan for today. Today we'll be looking at the Analyst Hub. So basically this portion of the Stratum Data Hub, the Analyst Hub is the part of the is the piece that will give you that spreadsheet import feature. If you're licensed for the Analyst Hub, then obviously yes, you get access to this. If not, we can always talk about how we can license you so that you can get access to this powerful feature. Today, as you can see, there's different ways of getting data into your Stratum Data Hub. You've got the classic ways of pulling data in from your ERP system using more traditional ETL methods. Typically, this is like sales or inventory related data. Down here in the middle, we can see this process here where you can actually now bring in data from Excel. So if you want to import data that you don't have in ERP per se, you could always get it into Excel and then import it into the Stratum database as well. So that's what we'll be focusing on today. And certainly with today's era, we have cloud sources out there of data that's available that you could certainly import into Stratum using our Stratum Link product. But today we'll be focusing mostly on, or entirely on, using the Excel import process. But as you can see, Stratum is fed by various methods. You can import data into Stratum using, as you can see, a different variety of methods of getting data into Stratum. So it's pretty flexible. So again, the data import process does require a license. If Stratum is a named user license in your enterprise, then you have full access to all the features. And then again, if you don't have a name user license, you would need to certainly license the data import feature. Whereas you could certainly purchase an Analyst Hub license. You can contact me if that's something that you're interested in. Or if you don't know what type of license you have, I can help you with that too. Stratum has to be on SQL Server, so that piece is pretty key. So we want to make sure that Stratum database is residing on the SQL Server platform. It doesn't have to be enterprise; it can be standard. And then the Stratum version needs to be on version 7.1 at a minimum. And then in terms of who can access the data import features, security and view administrators have full permissions to the data import process. Advanced and casual users can get access to it, but it has to be given to them explicitly. And then they can do data imports on their own. There are additional pieces of security in place as well, like only certain measure groups can be used to import that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Or we can talk about it now. So basically, you'll go into Stratum and you'll highlight the category that you'll want to make available as a user-controlled category, which means basically that you're getting data from Excel from a user, which is essentially what that concept means. The corporate designation means that you're getting it from ETL, the standard backend process feed. So how do we get to this menu? Here on the left-hand side, whether you might be on a prior version. So the bottom here is the version 7.3. On the right-hand side, you can get to the hamburger menu and get to the category menu. If you're on anything prior to 7.3, then you go into admin utilities on the left frame menu to go to the category menu. And this allows you to manage the different categories and designate a specific category as a user controlled category. Here we have sales plan designated as a user controlled category. And that's the one I'll be using for our example today, which basically means it's available now to import data into it once it's a user controlled category, which means user curated data housed in Excel spreadsheets can be imported directly into Stratum. And that could be any type of data, of course. You could have demographic or budget and plans, market trends, anything that's outside of your ERP that you don't have in ERP that complements your core, your enterprise data into the hub and provides value to your users is something that is feasibly possible. This is something that's immediately available. So once you import the data, it processes immediately and then becomes available to you. You don't have to wait overnight. So this is something that is processed instantaneously. So again, this will empower some of your folks out there that want to do this type of analysis, that want to import this type of data scientists, business analysts, and this makes that possible. So as you can see, the data import is launched from the left panel or from the hamburger menu on the right-hand side of version 7.3. We'll look at that in a second in the demo. And then once you import the Excel spreadsheet, there's a menu that allows you to go through the mapping so that you're importing the fields of information from Excel into the right areas. So we'll see that again in the demo. Here we have an example of an Excel file that I'll be using today to import data. This particular Excel file, as you can see, has region in it. It's got region, long description, sold to long description, product brand, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the right-hand side is my data that I want to import, my plan data. As you can see, it's each column represents a month of data. And it's going across in a horizontal fashion. So my time periods are horizontal. Here's an example of a transactional file. And certainly this is something that you could load in as well, where we have the time is now going down in a vertical fashion. So that's allowed too. So you have two different options of how you want to load the data into Stratum. You can take the horizontal or the transactional approach. So once you build your file, you're ready to go, and you have your plan and it's ready to import. Now you can get to the import menu, and you can do that with prior to 7.3. You can go to the admin utilities menu on your left frame, the left side of the application, and select data import. And then for the most current version, we move that over to the right upper right hand hamburger menu. And if we highlight analyst tools, we can see that that's available as well in version 7.3. It's just in a different spot. Once you get to the data import menu, you can then create a new job to import the file. So this is something that you'll be able to click on new and import this, as long as, and obviously you do have a running track record of all the jobs that you ran prior, as you can see. And again, as long as you have permissions and access to this menu, you'll be able to import your data. It'll ask you for a file, so you're going to want to select that file that we just looked at. That's something that you'll save and have ready, so that when it asks you to select your file, you can go on browse for the file and select it. It'll then ask you, it'll present a menu at that point, and you'll need to fill in some criteria. You'll need to tell it what type of, whether you're going to add the data or replace the data, where you're going to put it, what's the target category, what format did you end up using? Was it a time series format versus the transactional format, horizontal versus vertical? How many header rows do you have in the file? Where is the dates? Is it in that you might have 3 header rows and it might be in the second header row. Mine's actually like that. So I'll show you what that looks like. And then what does your date format look like? Is it similar to this? Or you can certainly choose a different format depending on what your dates look like. So, once you initially fill out some information about that, what the file looks like, then you can go ahead and click OK, and it will import the data into a mapping area where you can confirm that the auto mapping was done properly. It should map your data based on the names of the dimension, and the measure names should allow some auto mapping to occur so that you don't have to map everything every time that you import data, which makes it more convenient. Once you verify and import the process, you'll see some menus here, obviously, that the data looks good, it's ready to go. And then once you kick it off, it'll ask you once again that it may take some time. It depends on how much data you're trying to feed in there, although I've seen it process several hundred to 1,000 records very quickly. So that's something that if it's typically sales plans are not too granular. So this is something that would work well for more aggregated levels of data. You'll get an email once the process completes so that you'll know when you can go back in and look at the new plan that you just imported. So an email will be sent to you indicating that the job has processed. Like I said, this is not something that you have to wait overnight for. This is something that will occur immediately. And then once you get this email, then you can go back into the interface and check out your new plan data, which is what we have here. So we go back in, we run the view. We can then see that our plan data has been imported. We can see it by all the different customers that we had in the Excel file. And we can even change it here if we make that data plan enabled. This is something that feasibly you could set up as well if you wanted to, but normally when you import it, you'll make changes back on the Excel file and do a replace, which is really how this thing's been designed. That's me, that's my name, that's my phone number, that's my email address. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions about today's session. So what we're going to do is go into a demo. We're going to basically look at the interface and go through a scenario where I'm going to import a sales plan. What you're looking at now is our latest version 7.3. This is actually version 7.4 with our new dashboarding capabilities. So we did a session a couple weeks ago on that. So if you didn't sit on that, make sure you check it out. It's been recorded. It's up on our Solon.com site. The new dashboarding looks pretty spectacular. That's available in the graphing. The new graphing capabilities are available as well. So that's 7.4. That's something to look forward to. All right, this is 7.4. So we know that our data import is going to be here on the right-hand side in the hamburger menu, and indeed there's our data import option there. Under manage things is our category. Remember, we had to make the category user enabled so that we can actually import the data. So if we go down here, we can see that our sales plan is indeed user enabled, so that we can make that particular measure group capable of importing data from Excel. So that's been done already. So that's obviously one spot that we want to make sure that's available. And then now let's go in and we will go into Analyst Tools and we'll do a data import process. So here's that menu. This is what that menu looks like. Here's all the prior jobs that I've imported into Stratum. And if I want to go ahead and kick off a new job, I can click on the new button. It will then take me to the folder where I can browse to the folder where my Excel file exists. So there's the one I want to use right now, my sales plan example. If I click on OK, it'll then open that up. And like I said, now we've got to figure out how to fill this in. So I am just going to add the data in. I could do an add or a replace depending on if I made any changes. If I've already added the data and now I made some changes, maybe I just want to replace it. Here's my target category. I've only got 2, so we know that we can't replace data into categories that we don't want to, like sales and inventory. That would be a bad thing. So here we can select categories that are only user controlled, right? Remember that prior menu we just looked at? That would only present the categories that are user controlled. Okay, so we filled out that top area. Now we can go down here to the data selection area, and we want to say that this is a time series file because we know it's going across in a horizontal fashion. My file, and we can take a look at the file in a second here. It's got 3 header rows in it, and my dates are in the second header row. So if we take a look at the data, this is the actual file that we'll be using to import the data. We can see that indeed we do have 3 header rows, and it looks like my dates are on the 3rd header row. Yeah, so I'm just going to want to make sure I tell it that. So here we've got our region, sold to, product, brand, product. So those are the different levels that we'll be importing this sales plan data into. Okay, so we have that. So we have that on I believe it was on the 3rd header row. So we'll make sure that we put a 3 in there. The data looks like more traditional. So we'll make sure that matches up. So that's how you would answer those questions for this particular file that I want to import. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to give me a preview of the import. So now I'm just going to close out the left frame menu, and I can see that indeed these columns have been mapped. The long description columns have been ignored, which is what I want. We don't need to import the descriptions. That gets imported on a nightly basis. So that's not something we want to do. We just want to get these codes in for my region, my sold to, my brands, my products. Those have all been mapped as dimensions and to the proper dimensions. So that worked out perfectly. If we go further to the right, we can see all the plan data has been mapped to a measure called plan amount, which is exactly what I want. So everything looks really good here. And then on the far right-hand side, I've got a grand total and some other areas where I've got it in the spreadsheet that I don't care to import, and indeed those columns are being ignored. So everything looks pretty fantastic. I really don't have to do anything other than maybe validate, to make sure everything is valid and looks good, looks like it is. And then finally, I would just kick off a process, and it would then submit a live job, and I would receive an email, and then I would then be able to go in and see the data that I just imported. So let's simulate that. I just got the email. I then can now go back in and run my sales plan data view. So this view, this view basically gives me all the data that I just imported. So now I can actually run a view that allows me to see the data I just imported minutes ago. And here I can see that, if I wanted to aggregate this data up to a given region, if I wanted to drill in on that and see how this looked at by sold to level, I can add in the descriptions if I wanted to. So if I wanted to see the long description for my customer, I could do that. I think it's actually hidden. So if I wanted to show that, again, I can make that available in my view, so that it, obviously I can see what customer that the sales plan belongs to. Furthermore, if I wanted to add in my sales amount here, so as time goes on, as you evolve through the year, you'll be obviously getting actuals as well. So, and you'll be able to compare how you did versus your plan. So that's another great thing about this, is being able to marry this up against your actual data that's coming in from your ERP system. And and be able to do some comparative analysis. So I can aggregate it up at the top level. I can drill down, pick a particular customer, see how they're doing by brand, and drill that to product. And here we can see that Wilder Foods, Eastern America, and see how they're comparing to their sales plan as the year goes by. Some numbers look great, other areas have some discrepancies, and that's something that certainly you could delve into as you analyze the data further throughout the year. But as you can see, I can go in, import the data. I can create a plan within Excel. Another really cool concept here is that with the Excel add-in for Stratum, I could feasibly get data directly down from Stratum. I don't have to create the data per se. I can just download it directly from Stratum and massage it, create my plan. And then with the Excel add-in, I can actually then download it, massage it using filters. I can manage what I'm working with within Excel if I wanted to change a given forecast for a given combination of the rep, broker, category, sold to combinations. So, Excel does a fantastic job of presenting filters to allow me to filter down the data so I can work with certain reps and brokers and how I'm going to forecast and budget these different combinations. And then once I'm done, I can use the Stratum menu to then upload the data back into Stratum. So now it's looking at the data, feeding it back into Stratum, and all from the Excel spreadsheet, where I can then do the same thing here. I can tell it what I want to do, where I want to put it, how many header columns, so on and so forth, and kind of go through the same concept here. Except here, I'm actually just kicking all of that off, and all the smart mapping occurs as well. So now this is actually ready to go and ready to import in as well. So the Excel spreadsheet can, using the Excel add-in for Stratum, I can pull the data down, format as such, make any necessary changes, and then upload it without even leaving Excel. So the new Stratum add-in really makes it easy to work with the data and get it down into Excel and get it back into Stratum without having to jump through so many hoops to do all of that. So so that works quite nicely in the whole scenario, is to use the Excel add-in piece to garnish the data and to make it easier for you. I mean, essentially to get data down, massage it, and get it back in very easily, as a matter of fact. So I guess a couple of things. Obviously, the ability to import data into Stratum. We looked at being able to come up and build a plan using Excel. Here we can see that the Excel add-in can be used to do that very easily. So we don't have to create the data from scratch. We can use prior years of history within Stratum as a starting point, and then massage it in Excel and import it right back into Stratum. So, with a combination of products here, we can see that the data import, the Excel add-in work, hand in hand here. They complement each other quite nicely. So